want to share with you if you're a high income earner or a business owner and you're actually wanting to invest into real estate as well as invest in your personal development. I make a lot of videos on this channel around how to get started and the basics around it, but I think there's a few of you out there that are making good money and now want to know how to grow that wealth even faster. However, if you're not in a position right now because you're not earning high enough, you should still watch this video because there's a few nuggets of gold that can still apply to you today around your fundamentals and your goal setting process. So if you're interested in what my thoughts are, definitely keep watching. Hey guys, my name's Ravi and welcome back to Personal Finance with Ravi Sharma. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button because I talk about real estate, personal development, and all things financial freedom. Now, if you are interested in getting help when it comes to property investing, especially during a time where it's so confusing, go onto Google, type in search property or my name, Ravi Sharma, and you'll find Search Property, the buyer's agency, where we specialize in investment portfolios and scaling them up. We don't want to just go ahead and just buy one or two properties. I want to help people like yourself go from one property all the way up to 8, 9, and 10 properties. So if you're interested, definitely reach out. Now let's jump straight into it. Number one is avoid lifestyle creep. Now, as we make more money, we end up spending more money. And that's just the byproduct of it, because chances are when you're working more, you're making more, you want to have some elements of your life improve. And sometimes these increases in your lifestyle spending is forced, and then other times it's just a choice. Now, what I mean by being forced is that you go ahead and say, well, if I'm working and my partner's working, there's no one really to take care of the kids. So as a byproduct of that, you probably need to go and look at babysitting or you look at childcare services. So in that case, it's sort of forced. But then as a result of making more, you sometimes want to buy yourself nice things. And that could be in the form of clothes, it could be in the form of going out to nicer restaurants, and it could be in the form of nicer toys, be it your car or something else. Now, one of the biggest things that you can use as a hack, especially in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, is that every time you increase your income, you should actually just go ahead and plug 80% of that increase towards your investment portfolio. Now on this channel, I've spoken about the basics of budgeting, and it's 50, 30, and 20. 50% goes towards needs, 30% goes towards wants, and 20% is investing or saving. What I'm saying is, as you increase your income, you should be plugging in 80% of that increase towards your investment and savings fund. So if you get an increase of $10,000, then $2,000 can be spent on whatever you like, but $8,000 should go straight into your savings and investing account. Now, this could be in the form of shares, ETFs, housing, whatever the case is. You want to be going and avoiding lifestyle creep, because the longer that you can kick the can down the road before you acquire nicer things means that you're going to end up building a portfolio that's significantly bigger than most people. I know right now people that are having a household income of almost 200 to 300K and they're still not able to buy property. So if you're in a position where you can buy property and you've got less than that, you're getting ahead. Number two is manifest the dream life. Now, I was so surprised that more people aren't doing this. I thought everyone was doing this. Now, I'll tell you a little story about myself. As I was growing up in my 20s, I realized that I wanted to make more money and I wanted to invest in assets, right? So I was avoiding instant gratification. I was saying, okay, I know there's a bigger picture, there's a bigger plan. And then when I came across this concept of manifestation and visualization, I thought this is a bit of fluff. I don't really pay attention to this stuff. And then as my years went by, I started understanding a lot more around why people sit there, or the most successful people sit there and think about what their dream life looks like. Not just think, but they live it. They're feeling what they're going to feel when they have those things. Now, I'll give you an example. If I simply said I want to make more money and I get to the reason of why I want to make more money is maybe I want a nicer house, unless I'm sitting there and visualizing what that house looks like and actually looking at the numbers, I'm not really going to know. All I'm going to do is say, work harder, make more money. But when you start manifesting the dream life, you start putting on paper what the dream day looks like. So if I'm having a cup of coffee, is it at this coffee shop? Is it at Macca's or is it at home? And what type of coffee beans will I be using? If I'm having that, how much happier does that make me? Then if you have to go to work, am I driving in a car? Am I taking the bus? Or am I driving my dream car? Cool, how much is that gonna cost? And then you go on to saying, well, if I'm coming home, what do I wanna be coming home to? Is it a house that overlooks water? Is it a house in a high density area? Is it a house that's really close to the shops and the restaurants that I really like? And then you start building out what your dream life looks like. And this is very important because for me, over the last couple of years, I've made more gains towards my goals because I simply visualized what I wanted to get to. So if you're out there making money and you could be quite young and you don't have the mentors in your life, use this video as the advice. Because I know for a fact that if I manifested and visualized exactly what I wanted earlier on, I probably end up with a lot more money right now in my 30s. A really important tip here is that you need to think like the 1%. So if you put down a ridiculous goal, it needs to be ridiculous. Because if you want to get the 1% life, you've got to think differently. 99% of people will have goals they set out at the start of the year. You get to about October, November, which is right now, and then you find yourself not even getting anywhere close to it. So always aim higher, and then if you do end up lower than that, don't beat yourself up about it. Because I've seen in certain situations where you say, let's say I want to save $80,000. I say, okay, well, I'll save $80,000, that's my goal. But if you actually put on there $150,000, chances are you're probably going to get much higher than the 80,000 that you were initially going to be happy with. So if you don't get to 150 and you actually end up at 110, isn't that a lot better than 80? And chances are if you have 80 on your goals, you're probably going to get to 60 and you won't be happy at that point. Number 3 is outsource everything. And I'm talking everything. Right now, when you think about it, you're saying, okay, well, that's going to cost me money. Great. You're exchanging money for time, and one is finite and one is infinite. If you think that money is not infinite, you probably won't get to the levels of wealth that the filthy rich get to. What you need to think about is there's only one thing that will definitely go out of your hands, which is time. But money, that can flow. And that might mean you've been saving money and then you put down a deposit for a home, that's money flowing out. But it's not money that's been lost. But time only goes one way. And this is something so important and revolutionized the way I think about things. I'm still a work in progress with outsourcing every aspect of my life. I can tell you now, 4 years ago when I decided we're gonna have a cleaner that's gonna come to our house every 2 to 3 weeks and clean our place, I copped a lot of slack from my parents because they're like, bruh, what do you mean? You should clean your own place. That's just laziness. And when I said to them, well, I work Saturdays and Sundays because I love what I do, or at least that's my time to go and focus on my health, it makes a lot more sense when I figure out what my hourly rate is and how much it would cost to outsource something like that. Dan Martell talks about all of this in Buying Back Your Time in his book. So you definitely should go check it out. It's something I'm reading currently. It's very closely linked with Naval Ravikant and how he thinks about time and outsourcing things that just don't make sense, especially when you figure out your hourly rate. When we're on the topic of outsourcing, I'm not just talking about personal, but I'm also talking about work. There are so many people out there that I see their relationships break down because you often rely on your partner, sibling, or your parents, or maybe even your friends to be the therapist for you when in fact you should go and pay for actual advice. Most people think that it's really bad to go and seek advice from a therapist, but are okay going to the doctors for a flu they have. Mental health is very important, especially if you're an entrepreneur or you're making high levels of wealth, you're probably getting up the corporate ladder. And with that comes a lot more stress and definitely a lot more politics. It's very important that you keep yourself accountable and checked in with the right people around you. When it comes to investing, it's fairly simple. If you want to buy an investment property, you should definitely go and reach out to Search Property, which is the buyer's agency we run, and we do a damn good job of it. We have industry-leading stats when it comes to 80% of our deals are off market. That is incredible. If you think about it, 10 properties that we find, 8 of them no one will ever see because they're off market. This is why I keep pushing for the fact that you need to go and reach out. Because if you're actually serious about building wealth in real estate, you need to get the best people in your corner. Otherwise, why would you settle for second best? Number 4 is invest more and save less. Now, as we've grown up, we've thought about one thing, which is what our parents have been doing, which is save, 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 save. And although that's a very good principle early on, once you do have enough, you should really start figuring out how to invest. I remember when buying my first property, I was like, I've been saving for like 4 or 5 years. And you're telling me in one instance, one transaction, I'm gonna lose all that money. And that's what it felt like to me. When I saw that bank account and I'm like, okay, tomorrow all this money's gonna get drained because I went to go buy a property that I'm probably not gonna see. I'm so glad I took that leap of faith. Because now looking back, if it wasn't for that first move, I definitely wouldn't be here and I definitely wouldn't be making YouTube videos for you guys. So when it comes to saving, yes, it's important, but once you've got your emergency fund, you need to think about using every dollar to its maximum capacity. If you think about money that sits in a bank account, yeah, sure, you're gonna get some sort of return when it comes to interest from the bank, but you're gonna get a far better return if it's invested in other assets. Now, the last 2 I've got here are very important, but if you have enjoyed this video so far, smash that like button and we're gonna continue with it. Number 6 is focus on capital growth. Well, sort of. When it comes to investment properties, so many people will go out there and say, okay, I've got this strategy, I've got this strategy, and usually it's a mix of the 2 that you need. You'll often have people come out and say, look, don't buy in really shitty areas, you need to buy in blue chip areas. That's what we've been taught, that's what you need to do. Then there's others out there that go and buy in rural towns, mining towns, and say, I need cash flow, that's how I'm going to retire. I advocate for what's in the middle. Don't think about the extremes. What you need is the boring stuff, okay? So if you think about the blue chip areas, yes, it would be really nice to get something in the eastern suburbs of Sydney, but you're also paying a couple of $1 million for that. And when you purchase that, you're not purchasing to live in, you're purchasing as an investment. And your yield, well, that's a different story. You're looking at 1%, maybe 2%. And that is going to absolutely obliterate any hope that you have of scaling up a property portfolio. Equally, if you go to the other side and you say, well, look, Ravi, I'm going to go and make passive income. I'm going to go buy these properties, which are units or townhouses that are like $150,000 or $200,000. You go out there and say, well, I'm earning a 7% yield or 8%, 9% yield. Look at me. But the truth is those properties don't really grow. And if they grow, they're very, very volatile. What you want is a graph that goes up like this. And yes, there's going to be some ebbs and flows, but generally the direction is one way. When you start looking at capital growth properties, you might experience some higher levels of capital growth. However, if that means you can only hold one asset at say $1 million versus holding 3 properties at 1.5 million because of your borrowing capacity based on the rental yield, well then I know which choice I'm making. Equally, if you need the equity from one property to purchase another property, which is how you scale a portfolio, then you're not going to get that in the mining towns. Number 7, and by far the most important, is protect your energy. In order to get to the top, you need to be able to go and spend your time and energy on places where you get a positive return on investment. I'm not just talking about a monetary value. I'm talking about friends, family, siblings, and parents. You need to spend time with people who give you energy rather than take away energy. And this is definitely a lot easier said than done. I know for myself, a lot of friends that have just dropped off along the way is because they didn't bring any value to my life. And I know it sounds really bad, but the truth is this is how the filthy rich get filthy rich. Or this is how, for you, you can go and move out of your situation into a far superior situation where you're just happier in general. Yeah, as a byproduct, if you're happier, you've probably got more meaningful relationships and you're probably making a lot more. But the truth is, you need to focus on getting rid of the people that take away your energy, because when you start using your energy in the right way, I can tell you now, it does unbelievable things. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks, guys.